She opened the hotel room door, and the sound of her husband's laughter with another woman sliced through her soul like a shard of glass. You think betrayal hurts? Try hearing the man who swore to love you forever call someone else baby in your favorite silk robe. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. Her name was Alina, 33, graceful, brilliant, and a billionaire. By blood, not by marriage. Her father built a luxury real estate empire from nothing, and Alina was the only child. Smart enough to inherit it, strong enough to carry it. But she was also deeply, painfully human. She believed in love, in loyalty, in forever. That belief is what destroyed her. They met at a charity gala 5 years ago. Nicholas, sharp suit, sharper tongue, and eyes that made promises his heart had no intention of keeping. He wasn't rich, not then, but he knew how to charm power. And Alina, she saw past his bank account. She saw potential, passion, purpose. Or at least, she thought she did. What she didn't know was that Nicholas had a secret agenda from day one. And the woman he would betray her with was someone Alina had once considered family. Alina's world was elegance wrapped in quiet pain. She lived in a penthouse that touched the clouds, dressed in tailored Chanel, and ran board meetings with a voice calm as a storm. But beneath it all, she was just a girl who missed her mother, who died too young. She kept a photograph in her wallet, tattered at the edges, of them baking together when she was 6. It reminded her of who she used to be. Nicholas, on the other hand, was the classic outsider. His upbringing was rough. Single mom, 3 jobs, no father. He carried resentment like a badge. To him, wealth was a game he was determined to win. And Alina? She was his golden ticket. They married in spring. Cherry blossoms rained down like confetti. The tabloids called it a fairy tale. And for a while, it was. Sunday mornings in bed, laughing over burned toast, long walks where he'd kiss her knuckles one by one and say, "I still can't believe you're mine." But soon the little cracks started showing. He became distant, claimed it was business stress, started working late, coming home with cologne she didn't wear, avoiding her eyes. Alina felt it in her gut, that gnawing ache. But she silenced, told herself she was paranoid, that love required trust still. Something felt off. She began noticing her secretary, Margot, staying late too. Margot was beautiful, younger, ambitious. Alina had hired her fresh out of business school. She reminded her of herself. One evening, Alina returned to the office unexpectedly. A forgotten notebook. Her heels echoed through the marble halls. She passed Nicholas's office, and there was Margot, laughing, sitting a little too close, but when they saw her, they sprang apart. Nicholas smiled too wide. "You scared us." Alina smiled back, but her chest felt hollow. From that moment, her mind became a war zone. Was she imagining it? Was her marriage slipping through her fingers while she held on tighter? She started checking his texts when he left his phone unattended. Nothing. Clean. Too clean. She hired a private investigator. It took 2 weeks. 2 long, soul-eating weeks. The report came back with photos. Nicholas, Margot, kissing in a car, holding hands at a beach resort she and Nicholas used to escape to. That silk robe? It was a gift from her on their first anniversary. The one Margot now wore in that hotel room. Alina stared at the pictures for hours. Her hands shook. Her throat burned. Then, she stood up, called her lawyer, and made a plan. But she wouldn't confront him yet. Not until she was ready. Not until she knew everything. Because the real twist, Nicholas wasn't just cheating. He was planning to take everything. And Margot? She wasn't who Alina thought she was. She wasn't just a secretary. She was her half-sister. It was a Thursday. Strange how betrayal chooses ordinary days. The PI had sent her the final confirmation. Room 908, Madison Hotel. 8:30 p.m. That's where Nicholas and Margot would be. Again, third time this week. They had a rhythm now, like it was routine. Alina didn't tremble as she got dressed. She wore black, sleek, sharp, the color of endings. Her heels clicked like a countdown as she moved through the silent penthouse. She paused only once at the photo of their wedding on the mantel. She didn't cry. Not this time. In her car, the city passed like a blur, but her mind was painfully clear. Every memory, every lie, every gut feeling she'd ignored. It all sat with her in the backseat like ghosts. The hotel was exactly as she'd expected. Discreet, expensive, familiar. They'd stayed here once and on their first anniversary. He'd said he loved the way the sheets smelled. Now he brought her secretary here. Her blood. Her sister. She had the key. Money opened all doors, but grief gave her the nerve. Outside, room 908, she inhaled, counted to 5, then turned the knob. The door creaked open. She heard it before she saw it. Nicholas's laugh, deep, careless. Margot's giggle followed, wrapped in silk and sin. The scene was cliché. Champagne flutes, half-dressed bodies, music low. Nicholas looked up. His smile died. Alina, he muttered, scrambling. What the hell? Margot gasped, pulling the robe tighter. Her robe. Alina's robe. Alina stepped inside. Don't stop on my account. Nicholas reached for her, panic rising. It's not what it looks like. Alina cut him off. It's exactly what it looks like. She threw a manila envelope on the bed. Photos spilled out. Reports, bank statements, offshore transfers. Margot went pale. I know everything, Alina whispered. Nicholas stuttered, backing away. You don't understand. Oh, I do. Her voice trembled, not with fear, with fury. You seduced your way into my life, my company, my heart. And you? She turned to Margot, whose lips were quivering. You sat across from me for years, pretending. I gave you your first job, your first promotion. I trusted you like a sister. Her voice cracked. Because you were. Margot's eyes filled. I didn't know at first, I swear. But once you did? Alina stepped closer. You doubled down. You helped him. You planned this. Nicholas raised his voice. You're being dramatic. You left me no choice. You were so busy running your empire. Alina spun toward him. I built that empire while you were busy plotting how to steal it. He lunged. Don't throw this away. She slapped him, not hard, but loud, a punctuation. Get out of my life, she whispered. Then she walked. Down the hall, into the elevator, out into the cold air of midnight. And for a moment she stood still, and she broke. In the back seat of her car she screamed, into her scarf, into her soul. Rage, grief, humiliation. But even in her collapse, a seed had been planted. Vengeance wouldn't be loud, it would be strategic. She returned home and locked herself in her study. For hours, days. She read the reports, traced the money, uncovered the depth of Nicholas's plan. He hadn't just cheated. He had moved company funds, bribed board members, coerced junior staff. He was preparing to force her out and take control, using forged documents and manipulated emails. And Margot, she was the inside mole. Alina stared at the divorce papers for 2 hours that night. She didn't sign them. Not yet. First, she needed to make sure they had nothing left to gain. She moved quietly, pulled her legal team into motion, hired forensic accountants, froze suspicious accounts, rewrote board contracts, all while Nicholas still thought she was too broken to respond. She wasn't broken. She was sharpening her blade. Then came the final stroke, an anonymous tip sent to the press. A leak of the affair, the financial fraud, the betrayal. But just enough to stir curiosity, not enough to burn her. She needed them to go public first, to expose themselves. And they did. Nicholas and Margot called a press conference. Smug. Rehearsed. They accused her of emotional abuse, gaslighting, manipulation. They painted her as a cold, unstable woman too obsessed with power to love. The tabloids ate it up. For 48 hours, she was a villain, alone, mocked, despised. But on day 3, she replied not with words, with evidence. Her team uploaded the real story: emails, footage, wire transfers, signed affidavits, video clips of Nicholas threatening staff, Margot falsifying documents. In less than a day, public opinion flipped. The internet erupted. Justice for Alina trended worldwide. Nicholas and Margot went silent. Their social media accounts deleted. Their legal team quit. And Alina? She finally exhaled, not in triumph, but in relief. It was over, and the war she never asked for was finally hers to win. But Alina's story didn't end with public sympathy or trending hashtags. What came next was the slow, brutal, necessary rebuilding of a woman who had to redefine herself from ashes. In the days following the media storm, Alina stayed silent. She avoided interviews, declined offers from publishing houses and producers. She needed solitude, not spectacle. She flew to a remote cabin in Northern California, a place her mother once took her during summers. There was no cell service, just towering trees, clean air, and the sound of her own breathing. She sat with her grief. Let it throb without resisting it. She screamed into the trees. She wrote letters she never intended to send. She cried over every lie Nicholas whispered in her ear, not because she missed him, but because she hated that she ever believed him. But slowly, her sorrow started shifting, into strength, into clarity. She began journaling again, mapping out ideas, not just for her company, but for a cause, something bigger than the pain. She thought of women who didn't have power or wealth or lawyers on standby. What happened to them when betrayal burned their lives down, and that's when the idea was born. Rise, a foundation, a network, a new mission. She returned to the city with a plan. She didn't go back to her penthouse. She moved into a smaller space, cozy but secure, filled with light. No more shadows. She restructured her company, stepped down from the CEO role, and appointed a team of women, brilliant, under-recognized, loyal, to lead. She told them, "You're not just executives, you're examples." Then she launched Rise publicly, a program offering legal aid, mental health resources, financial literacy, and job placement for women recovering from betrayal, abuse, and loss. The press called it her redemption arc. But Alina didn't care for labels. She was doing it for the version of herself who sat in that hotel hallway shattered. She was doing it for the Margot she wished she had known, not the sister who betrayed her, but the one who, maybe, in another. Life had just wanted to be seen, and perhaps the boldest move of all, Alina visited her father's grave. For years she'd refused to go, but she stood there now with no flowers, no tears, just truth. "You should have told me," she whispered, "about Margot, about your mistakes. Maybe we could have fixed this." She paused. "But I forgive you. Not because you earned it, but because I need to move on." She left with her head held high. 6 months later, Rise had helped over 1,000 women. A year later, she published her memoir, The Fire I Became. It debuted at #1. At her first public reading, a young woman stood up and asked, "Do you ever regret loving him?" Alina smiled sadly. "I don't regret love," she said. "I regret giving it to someone who didn't know what to do with it. But even that taught me who I really am." The applause that night wasn't for her pain. It was for her survival. She never remarried, not because she was bitter, but because she was whole. Love would find her if it was meant to. But for now, she had herself, and that was more than enough. Betrayal will knock the wind out of you. It will make you question your judgment, your worth, your entire past. but it will never define your future. Because survival is not just about walking away, it's about rising. And sometimes, the people who tried to bury you don't realize you were a seed. Let them underestimate you, let them watch. Then bloom so loudly they can't look away. Alina did. And so can you. If this story resonated with your heart, share it. Because someone out there is still in the dark, waiting for the sign that they can survive too. You just might be their light. Until next time, stay strong.